The concept of the Spirit of God is often misunderstood, limited by human definitions and religious traditions. Many see it as a distant force or a separate entity, but in truth, the Spirit of God is far more dynamic and intimate than most realize. It's not confined to a single image or experience, rather, it's an all-encompassing presence that permeates every aspect of existence. Understanding this profound reality changes everything: how you relate to the divine, how you experience life, and how you tap into the limitless power of this ever-present force. For many, the phrase Spirit of God evokes images from traditional religious teachings. In Christianity, for example, the Spirit of God is often synonymous with the Holy Spirit, a distinct part of the Holy Trinity that plays an integral role in the faith. The Holy Spirit is seen as God's presence on earth, guiding believers, bestowing spiritual gifts, and acting as a comforter and advocate. In Judaism, the Ruach Elohim, or Spirit of God, is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as an active force, present at creation, sustaining life and guiding the prophets. Across other religious traditions, similar concepts exist. In Hinduism, for instance, the Atman is understood as the spiritual essence of an individual, often viewed as a fragment of the divine or the Brahman, which is the universal spirit. In Islam, the Ruh refers to the spirit or soul, which is a divine mystery that links humans to God. However, these traditional interpretations tend to position the Spirit of God as something external, a force or entity that exists outside of us, guiding us or intervening in our lives. This view, while comforting, is also limiting in its scope. It places divinity at a distance and makes it something to be reached for, rather than something that already resides within us. Now, let's take a deeper dive into a more expansive interpretation of the Spirit of God, the idea that it represents a universal consciousness, a divine force that permeates all of existence. This is a perspective shared by many mystical traditions and modern spiritual movements, which argue that the Spirit of God is not limited to a particular religion, location, or even time. In this view, the Spirit of God is synonymous with the fundamental energy or consciousness that creates and sustains the universe. This interpretation aligns with the concept of pantheism, which suggests that God is in everything and everything is in God. Unlike pantheism, which equates God with the universe, pantheism suggests that God is both immanent within the universe and transcendent beyond it. For example, the ancient Vedic texts describe Brahman as the universal soul, an all-encompassing reality that is both the source and essence of everything. In this perspective, the Spirit of God isn't a separate entity watching from above, but the very fabric of existence itself. The Kabbalistic tradition in Judaism also shares a similar perspective with its concept of the Ein Sof, which is the infinite and unknowable aspect of God that exists beyond the physical world. This broader view radically shifts our understanding of the divine. If the Spirit of God is not something out there but rather something that is everywhere, including within us, then we are all interconnected with this divine force. It suggests that every living being is a unique expression of the Spirit of God, and through our connection to this universal consciousness, we can tap into the same creative, healing, and guiding power. This concept not only empowers us to see divinity in ourselves and others, but it also redefines our relationship with the world. When we recognize that the Spirit of God is in everything, we begin to treat nature, people, and even challenges with a deeper sense of respect and understanding. The idea that the Spirit of God is within us isn't just a modern spiritual concept, it's deeply rooted in many ancient teachings. For instance, in the New Testament, Paul writes, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" 1 Corinthians 3:16. This biblical verse underscores the belief that we, as human beings, are vessels of divine energy. However, this idea often gets lost in the literal interpretation of religious texts. Many people still look for God outside of themselves, in sacred buildings, religious leaders, or distant heavens. While these external representations of divinity can be powerful, they can also prevent us from recognizing the divine presence that already exists within us. From a metaphysical perspective, the human body can be seen as a microcosm of the universe, with each individual carrying within them the essence of divine spirit. This aligns with the Hermetic teaching, as above, so below, which suggests that the same principles that govern the cosmos also govern us. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions are interconnected with the greater flow of life. When you understand that the Spirit of God resides within you, you realize that you have access to incredible potential. This doesn't mean that you are God in a literal sense, but it does mean that you are an expression of divine consciousness. The challenge is to awaken to this reality and begin living in alignment with this inner divinity. Practices like meditation, prayer, and mindfulness are not about seeking an external God, but rather about tuning into the divine presence within. They help us clear away the distractions and noise of daily life so we can hear the still, small voice of the Spirit within us. As we cultivate this connection, we can access greater wisdom, peace, and strength. Moving beyond the individual, the Spirit of God can also be understood in relation to the collective unconscious, a concept made popular by the psychologist Carl Jung. Jung believed that beneath our personal subconscious minds lies a deeper, shared unconscious, filled with archetypes and symbols that are common to all humanity. This collective unconscious could be seen as an expression of the Spirit of God, a shared spiritual reservoir that connects all human beings. According to Jung, the collective unconscious contains universal experiences and patterns, from which myths, dreams, and religious symbols emerge. These archetypes, such as the hero, the mother, or the wise old man, represent fundamental truths about the human experience. From this perspective, the Spirit of God is not just a force within you, but a force that connects you to all of humanity. Your dreams, your deepest intuitions, and your instinctual drives may all be seen as ways in which the Spirit of God communicates through the collective unconscious. This idea is especially powerful when we consider the common spiritual symbols and stories that appear across different cultures and religions. Whether it's the creation myths of the Bible, the cosmic cycles of Hinduism, or the mystical experiences described by Sufi poets, all of these expressions seem to tap into a universal spiritual truth. It suggests that the Spirit of God transcends individual belief systems and speaks to a deeper, shared reality. Recognizing this connection to the collective unconscious allows us to transcend the boundaries of individual identity and embrace a more universal view of humanity. When we see ourselves as connected to this collective spiritual force, it becomes easier to practice compassion, empathy, and unity, values that reflect the divine nature within all of us. In many spiritual traditions, There is a teaching that goes beyond the duality of God and creation, self and other. This is the concept of non-duality, or oneness, which suggests that the Spirit of God is not separate from the material world but is, in fact, everything. The separation we perceive between God and ourselves is an illusion created by the mind. In truth, we are all part of the same divine essence. Non-dual teachings can be found in Advaita Vedanta, a school of Hindu philosophy, as well as in Zen Buddhism and the mystical traditions of Christianity, such as the teachings of Meister Eckhart. These teachings emphasize that the ultimate spiritual goal is to realize that there is no separation between the self and the divine. When we embrace non-duality, we begin to understand that the Spirit of God is not something we can possess or control, it is what we already are. This realization often leads to a profound sense of peace, because it dissolves the fear of separation, lack, and death. If we are already one with the divine, then we are already whole. By expanding your understanding of the Spirit of God, you open yourself up to new levels of spiritual insight, personal empowerment, and universal connection. Whether you come from a religious background or not, you can begin to experience the Spirit of God in your daily life by embracing practices that cultivate inner awareness, compassion, and unity.